Hello, welcome to episode 163 of the Craft House Magic podcast. My name's Ellie and I'm coming to you from Norwich in Norfolk in the UK, and today is the 29th of April. So welcome everybody. Hope you all had a lovely crafty week since the last time I've spoken to you, and I'm here to share all the things that I've been making in the last 7 days. So today I have some knitting, some sewing, which includes some dressmaking, some cross stitch, some confessions. I have a few questions from the Ask Me Anything thread on Ravelry or via email, and a little bit of information on my shop update. I've got some new bags to show you. So you can find me on Instagram, Ravelry and Facebook as Craft House Magic, and I have my own website crafthhousemagic.co.uk where you can find my hand-dyed yarns, handmade project bags, stitch markers, higher knitting needles, crochet hooks, and also Clover crochet hooks and bag making supplies. So we have some Makalongs going on in the Ravelry group and on Instagram at the moment. I won't talk about them every week. What I'm going to do is pop details in the description bar down below about those Makalongs and what hashtags to use. So look down in the description box for more information. And we have a lovely prize that's been donated from the lovely Anita from the Gaga Knits podcast. And isn't this gorgeous? Look at this fabric. Look at the little fairy on the hair. How cute is that? There's some gorgeous little mushrooms, and the print's the same on both sides, and then it is lined with the most gorgeous fabric. It's like a little rabbit warren. I'm not sure whether a hare's warren is called a warren, but who knows. Isn't that gorgeous? Really pretty and beautifully made. So thank you so much, Anita, for donating that. This will be one of the prizes for the Craft 20 a day, I think. So do watch out for when I draw the next lot of prizes. So let's get on with the knitting, shall we? I have a finished object to show you. This is a rather odd thing to knit. You can have to see if you can guess what they are. Basically, they're called a leggings pattern by Stephen West, but I thought it would be great to use up my leftover sock yarn to make Adam some sort of long johns to go under his trousers. So I thought, yes, wonderful. So actually Adam's mum has knitted the majority of the leg, but I've sort of done a lot of the finishing off. So I made some changes to the pattern. So initially there's a sort of shorter 2-inch waistband, which I initially told Liz to just knit about 3 inches so that I can get a piece of elastic inside a folded over piece of it, so that instead of having the tie that the pattern normally suggests, I thought it'd be nicer to have elastic. And I have done that, but I found that the body wasn't long enough, so I ended up having to pick up stitches around the top of where Liz had knitted. And unfortunately I'd run out of that yarn, so I switched to a different yarn, but it doesn't really matter because they're going to be underneath the trousers. And I ended up knitting about 4 inches and folding that in and then enclosing that. So basically I stitched along where I'd picked up the stitches all the way around, except for about 1 inch or a couple of inches, and then I got some of this thick elastic and I measured the width of Adam minus 2 inches for sort of negative ease, so that it'd be nice and sort of tight so that they won't fall down. I then threaded it through and then I sewed it on the machine to join the 2 pieces of elastic together. Then I tucked it in and then I continued to stitch all the way around so that it's all enclosed completely at the top. So it does look a little bit odd when it's not on a person. So you can see that there is some sort of shape in here, and actually there's some short rows to make the bum a bit bigger at the back. But he did find that they weren't coming up very far at all. He likes them to come up a reasonable level. So I just added 4 inches and that's absolutely fine. But actually I'd already made this longer than the pattern had said in the first place. So I think just beware that it's not a very long body. But he's got quite a narrow waist, so he must have a big bum compared to his waist. So the leg, there was some calculations that the pattern told you to do to work out the leg shaping for a particular person, and this actually worked out really well. It fits really nice and snug like a sock. On the second leg, Liz ran out of the 2 yarns that I got her to hold together for the main sort of leg, and I gave her some darker grey to go with this blue. And then she ran out of the blue as well, so she used a light turquoisey colour, which is the one I used for the waist. But it kind of looks like, you know, when you get sort of cycle shorts with a pattern on a leg, it's fine. And it's used up some sock yarn that I had as well. This, so there's a blue yarn here with a grey yarn, 2 plain yarns held double for this section. But this bit here, I had another variegated opal sock yarn, which makes it look a bit different, but I thought having the waistband a bit different would be a bit of a feature and uses up some of my yarn I already had. The actual pattern said to do a plain waistband in like a solid colour and then use all your minis to do the rest of the leg. An additional change that I made was, actually it says to have the pearl bumps to the outside, but when Adam tried them on before I did the extra bit around the waist, he thought that actually he quite liked the look of the stocking stitch to the outside, so rather than the reverse stockinette that's in the pattern. But it is a very funny thing to knit. But he's going to love them. Adam is always really, really cold, especially in winter, and these will keep him nice and warm. So with it being 2 fingering weight yarns, it's more like an Aran weight, so very thick and snuggly. I will see if I can get a photo of him after he's got back from work tonight, to pop a picture up here so that you can sort of see what they look like. But obviously I'm not going to get him to do a twirl in them because it might be a bit revealing. But anyway, so that's the first finished object. Oh, I forgot to say actually, there was about 380 grams of yarn that I used up for those leggings, but obviously he's quite a small size. I actually found for the leg that he was smaller than any of the sizes that were on the pattern. I think it was just like as if he needed to go one size further down, so I did some calculations for the stitch count, but it wasn't too difficult to make some changes there. But the calculations that Stephen suggests for doing the leg decreases, that was quite easy to follow as well. I used mostly West Yorkshire spinners and a little bit of opal yarn in those, but if he gets on all right with them I might knit him another pair, because it's always nice to have some cosy workwear because his workplace is quite cold, you see. The next thing I have to show you is a work in progress. So I have my cotton socks that I've been working on. I don't feel as if I've done loads, but I have done a heel flap and gusset, which I think look absolutely gorgeous. Look at that melon colours. So this is the Regia cotton yarn. It's got a bit of polyamide in it as well, and it's called Cotton Colour Tutti Frutti. And I'll pop a link to it in the description bar down below. But since the last time I've just done the heel flap and gusset really, but I am enjoying knitting them and I'm hoping to get one finished by next week. That's my goal anyway. So my next work in progress is my painted honeycombs shawl, and this is the large painted honeycombs version, and it's a pattern by Stephen West again. This is like the Stephen West episode. And it basically starts on the long edge of the shawl and you have these gorgeous honeycombs. It is quite long rows at the moment. I think once I've done a few more rows of these honeycombs, it'll sort of decrease to an amount of stitches that is a little bit more reasonable. So I'm basically using Collinette Jitterbug for the main colour, and then I've got some little minis that I'm incorporating into the shawl as well. So I've basically started with one colour here, then I've blended into a second one which has slightly darker pink in it, and then I've blended into a third one which was like this sort of pinky orangey colour, and then I've started to blend it into a fourth colour which you can't really see yet because I haven't knitted much of it on its own, but there is a slight difference between that and the previous colour. These two at the bottom are Norah George yarns. I've then got these two here are from Fruitful Fusion that I bought a mini set from in February, but you can see that there's quite a lot of stitches on the needle there. The small honeycombs version actually starts on the narrower edge rather than starting with a load of stitches, so I think actually the smaller one might have been more enjoyable to knit. I don't know. Swings and roundabouts really. You're going to get to the point where you've got long rows anyway, aren't you? So So that is all my knitting that I've got to show you this week. I am thinking about a bit of a cast on for next week though. I have a gorgeous sock set that I'd got from West Green Loft Yarns that I want to cast on, so you might see that cast on by next week. So I've got sewing section now. So Barbara, would you like to come over and show us what you've got on? So thank you very much, Barbara. So Barbara is wearing my newest Zadie dress, and this is a pattern by Tilly and the Buttons. There are a few modifications that I've done to this pattern on previous versions that I've done. I've shortened the sleeves. So in the original pattern there was a shorter sleeve version and a longer sleeve version. I've basically taken the longer sleeve and cropped it to this length because for me the shorter sleeve was too short. So that was quite an easy change to make. I have taken 2 inches off the length of the skirt, but before that I actually added an inch to the back of the skirt for my sort of a big bum increase. But I did decrease the length of the skirt by 2 inches after the second version I made, just because I thought it would be better if it hit my knees as a length, because it's sort of more of a slimming length, I thought. This fabric is an art gallery fabric and it's a cotton jersey material. I love this fabric so much that I actually had bought a metre for a t-shirt that I've worn loads, and I then went and bought some more so that I could make a dress from. So the Zadie Dress by Tilly and the Buttons is one of my favourite patterns. It is so comfortable and it has got the biggest pockets ever. You can put so much stuff in them. I just love them. 2 big pockets either side. It's got some waist shaping. There is some princess seams at the front here. When I actually cut the pattern size that I wanted out, I did increase the size of the bust on the princess seams to give a better fit. With a jersey pattern, normally I don't always make much adjustment for a bust because obviously the fabric stretches as well. But for this one, because it had princess seams in, it's such an easy thing to do. I just added some space for the bust on the side panels and made sure I'd got the length so it fitted in the front of the princess seam there as well. The wear on the fabric that I'd made into a t-shirt before is just worn really well. I wear this t-shirt loads. It's lovely and bright and cheerful, which is always what you want when you put it on in the morning. It's like secret pyjamas because it's so comfy and stretchy. What more can you want? So I have several versions of this dress, mainly longer sleeved ones, and I wanted some more short sleeve ones for the summer really. I tend to get a bit hot if I've got a lot of long sleeves on. At least then I can always pop a little cardigan over the top, and it's a little bit more versatile. You could always wear it with a pair of tights as well and a cardi on the top. Give us a twirl, Barbara. Let's have another look at the back. I will pop it on in a minute and have a bit of a prance around the lounge so that you can see what it looks like on me. Barbara is a little bit less endowed, so it does fit me a little bit better. The bust is more filled out when I've got it on. But thank you very much, Barbara, for helping me demonstrate the fabric to everybody on camera. So I have cross stitch to show you. For some reason I started doing this sort of 20 minutes every day a few weeks ago, and I was a bit busy in the morning, so I stopped doing it for a while, and then I was a bit like, oh, it's taken me ages to do this cross stitch. It really isn't. I just needed to put a few days of 20 minutes to get back into it. I'll show you what it's going to look like before I show you what I've actually done, because you can't really see what it is. So it's a bookmark with an ice cream in it. What more can you ask? And there's a chocolate flake, which is always good. And I have done this much so far. You can sort of just about see that these are strawberries here, and this is the flake, and I've done little patches of where there's little hearts. But I'm getting there slowly, and to be honest though, I've done probably most of this red and the chocolate flake in the last few days, so I'm really getting into it now. And I'm actually, there's a potential that I could finish it in a week or two. We shall see. I am planning to have next week off podcasting because it's our wedding anniversary next week, but I will then be podcasting the week after, so I've got no excuse. I've got 2 whole weeks straight to get this finished. So it is a pattern by Michael Powell, and I'll leave a link to the website where you can get this pattern from for yourself. So in the kit for this, you have all you need to make the bookmark. There's all the threads, they're anchor threads. You get the chart, the fabric, you even get the cotton tassel to go with it, and some backing material, which I think is a felt, yes. So there's like, it's like a ribbon of felt to go on the back of the work once it's finished. I just think that's lovely because if everything's all in there to finish it off, you're sorted really. I think it was about £12 when I bought it. I think I got it from the quilt show a couple of years ago. But I can't wait to finish it now. I'm really excited about it. If I finish this one, I've got my eye on this one as well. So we'll see. So that is my cross stitch. This week, I have confessions. I know that some of you have been saying, wow, where are those confessions, Ellie? Well, I've got some, so it's okay. I did it for you guys. So I was looking on my emails, as you do, and Minerva Crafts has sent me a little email to show me what new fabrics they had, and I saw this. Oh my goodness, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's like a teal colour with flowers. Absolutely love this. So I got 1.5 meters because my rule is I'm not allowed to buy fabric unless I have a project in mind. So my idea is to do an indigo top or smock with this one. I thought that'd be quite nice. I did actually think, oh, should I make a dress with it? And then I thought, I don't know why, but I felt like it might be a bit too much if I had the whole dress in this print. I'm not quite sure why, but that's what I was feeling, so I'm going to go with it. I haven't actually given it a wash yet. It's definitely started to fray already. There's threads coming off it, so I will make sure that I overlock it before I give it a wash. And I just do a standard wash at 30 degrees like I wash all my other clothes in it, so I know that it's not going to shrink anymore once I give it a wash. But that's going to be an exciting thing to put together. I do get excited when some fabric comes through the door. So I've got a couple of questions from the Ask Me Anything thread. Oh, some of these are emails as well, so if you do want to email me, you can email me on crafthousemagik@gmail.com and ask me the question directly there. I have got some emails that I haven't sort of replied to or mentioned the answers on the podcast yet, but I will get to them, so don't worry. So the first question is from, I think it's Erika. I don't know if I've said that right. It's the Ravelry name, so I wasn't sure how to pronounce it. And they were asking of how I blend my yarns for the Honeycombs shawl. So basically, so I've knitted quite a bit of the original mini, and then when I think, oh, I think I've got about enough for another 4 rows there, and you can be really scientific about it and sort of measure how much yarn you're using for a row and sort of multiply that by 4 times so you know you've got plenty of yarn, and then start switching to the new colour. And I do 2 rows of the new colour, 2 rows of the old colour, 2 rows of the new colour, 2 rows of the old colour, and then cut off the old colour and continue knitting with the new colour, if that makes sense. So it's just 2 rows, 2 rows, 2 rows, 2 rows, and then carry on with the next colour. Hopefully that makes sense. You can do a much more complicated method of sort of blending yarns, but that's a nice simple way, and you get a sort of a little bit of delicate striping depending on what sort of colour you've chosen to go next in your shawl or wrap. So I've got a question from Anita, who's from Gaga Knits, and she was the lovely lady who's donated a lovely notions pouch for one of the Makalongs. But her question was, when you're sewing a jersey garment, when you're adding pockets to it, when it's part of the side seam as well, when you come to sew the back and the front panels together, do you sew that edge on the overlocker? And I think, I so many jersey dresses with the pockets in the side, to be honest, but I would suggest that it should work fine. You just stitch along the side seam as normal. I think round the pocket, most of the pocket would be quite easy, and it's just the bit where it comes back up on itself and down where it might be a little bit fiddly. I would have thought, if you're careful enough, if you gently sort of straighten it up before it goes into the machine. What you could do is do a little practice piece where you have a bit that goes sort of into a bit of scrap, and just see whether you can sort of open that up and feed it into the overlocker, just to give yourself a little bit more confidence, really. But it's actually quite surprising how you can manipulate edges of things to make it sort of straight, just to be fed into the machine. You could always, if you've tried with the overlocker and it's a little bit messy just underneath that pocket, you could always just sew on top of it with a standard sewing machine just to neaten the edge up. I'm sure that would be fine. So hopefully that helps, Anita. So I've got a question from Sue, and she was asking about BFL, and particularly the BFL base that I supply on 4-ply. She was saying it's plumper than the standard merino. So my BFL has got 365 metres per 100 grams compared to the merino base is 425, and then my merino, nylon and stellina is 400 metres. So there's not much difference between the 400 and 425, very slightly plumper, the stellina, but the BFL is quite a bit plumper, but it's still classed as 4-ply. And Sue's question was, is it thicker? It is slightly thicker. You're right, Sue. But also, her question was, would I change my needle size or cast on less stitches? Now, when I'm knitting with my BFL yarn, I like to use 2.5mm needles, which is the same needle size as my other yarns, I think. It gives a nice durable texture. So when I'm knitting with BFL, I'm tending to knit things that I want to make durable, because it's got longer fibre, it lasts longer, there's less pilling there for a start, and it's mixed with nylon as well, which always makes things more durable. I do cast on less stitches though. So for a standard sock, I cast on 64 stitches with a 2.5mm needle. For either, that's 64 stitches for my leg or about 60 stitches for Adam on a 2.5mm needle. This is my knitting gauge, so you'd have to sort of make an adjustment to the normal gauge that you use for a standard merino yarn. But with the BFL yarn, I tend to use 56 stitches for Adam and 60 stitches for me. So I'm going down about 4 stitches because of that extra plumpness gives it a little bit, it's slightly thicker, and therefore I can get away with less stitches, which is always good. Because 56 stitches just seems to fly by after you've been working on 64. So if I am knitting socks for Adam, brilliant if they're BFL as well, much less time. So I hope that answers your question, Sue. The last thing I wanted to mention was quite a few people were asking me about advent calendars for this year. I don't list mine till August the 1st because for me, advent just doesn't feel Christmassy until at least July is over. So I'm going to list them on the 1st of August, my advent calendars, and there will be options for 10 grams, 20 grams and various different bases. So I'll probably have merino, stellina, BFL and merino DK as well, the rest being 4-ply. So watch out for those. So I've just got my shop update now to end the podcast, and I have some new bags to show you and also some needle sets, but I'll show you those in a minute. So first of all, I have a new animal print. Now, I don't normally go for sort of rainbow colours, but I saw this print and I just thought, wow, that is amazing. And it is an animal print that's sort of got a black background as well. But I am in love with this. There's so many different animals on there that you can sort of pick out. Difficult to see what you can see on the camera here. Let's see if I can point it out. So there's an elephant here. I think elephant's my favourite because it's got some delicate little flowers on the top. There's a lion just at the top there. I have a zebra, a tiger, a monkey and a leopard. There's probably more there that I haven't spotted. I think that there's a giraffe on there as well, but I can't see it in the camera reflection. But I've got these. This particular one is a medium-sized one, and this is a zipped version, and then I've got the drawstring as well. But these are just the medium size, but I am going to supply them in the small and the large as well. So the large is quite a lot bigger than this, and the small is a little bit smaller for sort of a sock set or whatever. It gives you the measurements in the listings of what size they are, and I also have taken a little video of a different print of bag, but you can see the difference of the 3 sizes next to each other in the drawstring anyway. And then you can see the yarn in the bag, so you can see how big they are. So the medium size is good for a sort of shawl or a small jumper. I think you can cut probably 4 to 5 skeins of 100 grams of yarn in these, but I tend to use this medium size a lot because if I've got a couple of sock knitting projects, I sometimes pop 2 projects in the same bag. I'm going to use my fabric that I bought to demonstrate what it looks like with stuff in. So it's a box bottom. Both of the zipped and the drawstring closure has a box bottom, looks like this. This drawstring looks like that when it's closed up. I think with the zipped ones, obviously because you're not losing the space for the drawstring, you can get slightly more yarn in the zipped one. I've just got a little teal ribbon on the top. They've both got yellow lining. I have got 2 big pockets either side there. If you don't like yellow, I have got a turquoise that matches with this and a fuchsia colour that would also go nicely as well, but I just thought the yellow would go really nicely for some reason. I think that there's a little bit less and it doesn't overwhelm you with one colour. That's why I chose the yellow. So you can choose any size that you want out of my listings, and I make them to order, so if you do want a different lining in as well, I'm happy to do that. And the drawstring has got the same pockets as well. 2 nice big pockets at the side. And then of course you have to have all the little bits and bobs to match. So one of my favourite things is a notions pouch, and this is a one that sort of stands on the table. You can have it open like that with stitch markers in and bits and bobs. And this particular one's got a sort of tiger showing the most predominantly on the side. If you have a particular liking for a particular animal, I can see if I can fussy cut it for you, so that you can see it on the side of your notions pouch. It is lined with yellow as well. All of the accessories are lined with yellow. I have some scissor cases that are lined with yellow, with a black button on the front. If you don't do well with buttons, I could also put like a popper press stud instead of a button if you wanted to, like the same as these ones. So these are DPN cases. I do 2 sizes of DPN case, one for a 6-inch needle, which is the sort of standard double pointed needle size, and then I do some for 8-inch needles as well. These are ideal for the higher flyer trios. They just fit nicely in there. That's because they're 8 inches in length, and that's for an 8-inch needle. So they're all lined in yellow fabric, and obviously the same animal print. And last but not least, I've got my circular needle case where you pop the needles in there and then roll this up, and then you've got an elastic to hook it around the button. But I have got a proper demonstration video, and I'll pop the link in the description bar above. So if you buy a full-size project bag as well, I always pop in a little lavender sachet, which is the lavender from my garden. So there we are, that's the new project bags going in the shop tomorrow. But I do have a couple of sets from Higher that I'm popping in the shop. So these are crochet hook sets, and I've got 3 prints going in the shop. So we've got a red rose, a teal leaf, and then a black and red leafy print as well. So these are all for crochet hooks, and I shall open one to show you what it looks like. I have shown these on the podcast before, but I've restocked this week, or it'll go in the shop update this week. So you can see there's a full set of the needles from Higher, and they come in all these gorgeous colours. And last but not least, I've got some of these are sharp interchangeable sets. This is the sort of small needle size, which runs from a 2.75 to I think it's a 5mm. Yeah, and the needles actually say the sizes on, which is handy, and it doesn't rub off, which is also good. And that comes with your the cables, with the labelled packets of the lengths, and also a little sheep needle gauge, which is always good. They also come with some cable connectors and grips as well. I find the cable connectors quite useful, because if you want to transfer onto a larger cable, you can actually screw 2 cables together and transfer stitches over. And the grips are great for making sure that you've got a nice tight attachment between your needle and your cable as well. If I do it by hand without using the grips, it sometimes come undone, but I have never had it come undone if I've used the grips as well. So one on the cable and one on the needle, and give them a little twist. Grips make it much easier. So there we are, that's all the things that I've got in the shop this week. Like I said, next week I'm going to have the week off, because it's our wedding anniversary and Adam's got a few days off work, so I'm going to have the week off too. I am going to still be making things and posting things for the shop. I'm just not going to do the podcast next week. So that's it, I think. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I shall see you in the next episode. Bye!